I think they should have had one way
They've been talking about it for a while.
They had a lot of money. 3 times a week. Maybe during the week.
About 2 years. Before that, that's where I started out.
Where is it? So you've been in the news business?
Going on 10 years. Started me to leave.
Survive so you can retire someday?
I don't know. That's the way my retirement fund looks right now. You got the old company 401k with the old matching funds. Basically a glorified IRA at that point. Any whatever you pay.
Well, they got more shares, right?
The post office is good. You know, there's a lot of people that just give me money.
He had some time in the Navy. So he had to throw post office They should have done 25 years.
He did all right.
Yeah, he did all right. He was in the Navy for 5 to 10. William's got a daughter in college.
Yeah, pretty fast.
It is. Are you with someone?
Yes. I'm with the Democratic Party.
The Kansas Democratic Party or the National?
The Democratic Party.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Kyle.
Kyle? Kyle what?
Kyle. What's your name?
Pat Leopold. What's your last name?
Gardner.
Kyle Gardner?
Yes.
Okay.
Nice to meet you. Pat, right?
Pat.
They moved from that group to like 6. And just southwest. He had a chance to put him in the country.
I mean, it's obviously crazy going, but people find ways to
Tried to get your call across.
For me, last summer here was the worst. It was like 110 some days. This is crazy. How can people survive this? It's not right.
A lot of fans in my state.
Yeah, that's important. Staying in air conditioning as much as possible. And I was in a little one-bedroom apartment, and my July utility bill was but it was worth it, because I had to go out and get it. And it's a lot for a one, like 600 square feet. Yeah, that's a lot.
People stay about 50 or so.
I had it at about 75, but I don't think that place was insulated. I think that was the problem. I mean, I was on the top floor too, which doesn't help. You get all the heat up there. I also take all the cold air just to escape.
How come you stopped at Kansas? All down south.
KU journalism school. I got real good journalism school, good school paper. So I did that and just kind of stuck with
Trying to get my wife to sell it for me.
I've heard you can do all right down there. The cost of living's pretty good.
You know, Gulf Shores and Orange Beach is really nice.
Right, but not as pricey as Florida. That's true too. Yeah, you guys that.
Test, test.
About 20 minutes.
Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Not working at all? Is it? Okay. Everybody can hear me? Good. Well, welcome. We're tickled you're here. We are going to go ahead and get started. We have some people still coming in. We're getting chairs for everybody too. So if you need a chair, wave your hand, and one of my staff will get you. Here's one. We'll get you all seated and get you all comfortable. I'm tickled that we have so many people here. I heard on the news this morning that there was like 9% turnout in an election yesterday back east, and it makes me kind of sad to think that only 9% of the people cared enough to go vote. And so the fact that you're here and care enough about what's going on in your government speaks volumes to me, and so thank you. We like to have town halls across the 2nd Congressional District regularly, and we're always pleased when people come out to these. This is not your only opportunity, though, to get up to date on things. We do town halls over the phone in your area at least once a month, and we've been doing that for about 4.5 years. So you always have an opportunity there. If you're not getting those calls, just call our office, 234-5966, 234-LYNN is what that is, and give us a new number if you want to be called like on your cell phone instead of the home phone if you're not always at home in the evening. So we can accommodate you there. We also have open office hours, generally the first week of every month, which gives you face-to-face time with me if you need that. And then of course our staff, we've got staff here in Topeka, in Pittsburgh, and in Washington every day of the week during the work week to serve you. And so don't hesitate to holler at us. What we thought we'd do today is, and I see Representative Gandhi just walked in from Topeka. Can you wave at some of your constituents? Do we have other State House members that I might need to, from Topeka? Well, Dr. Gandhi, thank you for being here. That speaks volumes of you. What I thought we might do is I'll give a quick summary as kind of last folks come in about kind of what the big challenges are in Washington today. That'll take maybe 15 minutes, and then we're going to spend the last 45 minutes addressing your questions in the red bucket. And then we do have a hard end at 1 o'clock. We've done this over the noon hour, and I know a lot of you have to get back to work, and we're not going to make you late, so we'll have you out of here at 1 o'clock. But if for some reason we don't get to your question in the bucket, again, all you have to do is call our office, give us your name, your question, and we'll get you an answer. So, does this work? You know what? I just might do this. That'll work. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Okay. Can we just move this? Can you all see over this? You can, okay. Real quick, this is kind of the situation that we have in Washington today. This is a summary of our debt throughout time, starting in 1940. And the red is what we project the debt to be. Again, if we maintain the status quo in Washington. What that means is if we make no changes to the current appropriation bills, keep them at their current levels, and if we make no changes to our tax code and maintain our current tax code as it exists today, based on projections, this is where our debt is projected to go. And as you can see in the bottom, OMB is the President's number crunchers, CBO is the Congressional Budget Office, that's the nonpartisan number crunchers that works for Congress. So they work for Democrats and Republicans alike. And so, thank you. So these are, I guess, nonpartisan numbers. These are just the facts. I'm trying to just give you the facts. And what is concerning to a lot of us is there was a time when we owned our own national debt. We bought United States savings bonds. That's not the case today. Unfortunately, almost 50% of our debt is owned by other countries. This, if you remember nothing else, this is probably the most informative slide you're going to see from me here this first few minutes. This is your federal budget in pie graph form. And what you'll see is the blue is the discretionary spending. And that's what we spend 90% of our time arguing about in Washington. The 12 appropriation bills that we are supposed to pass every year are included in that blue part. And it makes up 1/3 of the federal budget. Half of that 1/3 is the defense budget, and half is the non-defense discretionary budget, which is about everything else. But what you don't hear us talk a lot about is the other 2/3 of the budget, and that is Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. This is the interest on the debt. Keep in mind, interest rates are at near 0%. And Bernanke has sent a strong message to us that he is going to start lifting that artificial cap off the interest rate. So that could quickly double or triple. And then the other mandatory spending are things like unemployment payments, disability payments, food stamps, all of those things. And what we do is we don't appropriate that 2/3 of the budget. So based on current law, if you qualify for one of those programs, the government writes a check, regardless of if Congress has appropriated their work or if they've shut down. That part of the spending continues. So the laws for Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment, I mean, many of these laws have been on the books for decades. If you qualify for Social Security, you'll get a check. If you qualify for unemployment, you'll get a check. But that's the part you never hear us talk about because it's not politically expedient to talk about those things. I think history proves that if members of Congress talk about those things, they generally lose their job. And so that's why you don't see people talking a lot about this. Now this is the revenue side of the ledger. I think people are always interested to see what the makeup is of the revenues that are coming in to the coffers. And as you can see, we're already upside down in our social insurance programs. We're getting $953 billion, but the Social Security that we're paying out and the Medicaid and the Medicare already exceed that. So we're already upside down there. And as we have 10,000 Americans hitting retirement age every single day, so you can imagine we've got a real problem there. This is another way. The goal of America and every nation, honestly, is to have your revenues and expenditures for the federal government to be about 20% of the gross domestic product. And that has been the case historically for America. We have charted it in 2006, and where the blue starts is where we are today. And as you can see, our revenues have, the problem is our revenues have been below 20%, and our expenditures have been above, or 20%. Now, none of you can operate your business like that or your home finances like that, but the federal government has been trying to do this. And so the goal in the policies that we are working on in Washington today are going to try to be to match those up again and hit that 20% mark. Now the green is the revenues, again projected out starting where the blue is. If we do nothing to our tax code, the blue that we've layered on is the fiscal cliff bill that passed at the beginning of this year. I did not vote for that, but that added that much revenue to the coffers. And then the spending, again, is based on projections by OMB and CBO. What I want to point out is a lot of people say, well, all you have to do is raise the tax rates on people. And so, especially the wealthy, they just need to pay 100%, and the middle class, if we just raise theirs to, 50%, our problems would go away. Well, what's interesting is when you look at the data, that's not what happens. It doesn't matter if the tax rate is 90% or 30%. Look at the tax revenues. They're flat. Well, why is that? It's because that's what my business was and when I was in private practice. There are CPAs, there are tax lawyers that figure out ways to take income out of businesses without paying tax, and it's what we do. And so that's not going to be just the simple solution. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the solutions we have in closing the loopholes. I want you to see who is taking advantage of the majority of the loopholes in our tax code today. It's the top 1%, followed by the top 20%. We have a very progressive tax code currently. The blue is where we were with the 01 code. We've made several changes. 2010 is the red. And with the fiscal cliff deal at the beginning of the year, when the revenues start coming in, it will make it even more progressive than what this shows. But we haven't started collecting those higher rates yet. So this is not reflected because this is based on hard data from the IRS. So real quick, what some of our solutions are to fix this mess. We have proposed a budget in the House that will balance in 10 years. Now a lot of people say, holy smokes, I can't wait 10 years to balance my budget. Well, this is just really simple. It's math. And we can get balanced in 10 years, but what that means is cutting current senior programs today and cutting them extremely. And again, I don't think there are a lot of Americans that would support that. So what we've chosen is a glide path that gets us where we want to go without affecting current seniors at all. So, but what's frustrating is we haven't gone to conference yet on our budget because the Democrat budget never balances and neither does the president. And we can't even agree on that one fundamental concept that at some point the federal government should balance their budget. So we've been unable to proceed, and we will be unable to proceed unless we can agree on one fundamental, and that is, sometime in our lifetime we ought to balance the budget. And we do this, number one, by just trying to peel the federal government back on the discretionary third to what it was the federal government was intended to be when you pull out your pocket constitution. What is it we wanted the federal government to do? And that means slowly sending things back to the states that they should have had jurisdiction over and letting Dr. Gandhi argue about it. Giving back to the local communities, the cities and the states, what they should have been doing all along for themselves, but the federal government stole authority from. And give back to the American people what we should have been doing for ourselves and each other and our communities. And instead the federal government has taken it from us. So that's going to take some time, and you can't make that change overnight without upsetting the apple cart. So that's what we attempt to do in our budget. We also address the tax revenue side. I personally am an advocate for the fair tax, but we don't have the support right now to do that. So in the absence of that, the direction we have gone is to just eliminate the majority of the loopholes within the tax code, lower the rates, and just broaden the base. And the pillars that we've been using, this is my committee, House Ways and Means Committee, is for it to be income distributionally neutral. So when I showed how the tax code is progressive and the wealthy pay more, what we're proposing is that we keep that progressivity within the tax code as it exists today, and that it be income distributionally neutral within a static model. That's a microeconomic model. But what you'll see when you put these reforms in a real-life economic model, a dynamic model, macroeconomic model, you'll see huge growth in our economy, which is what we're so desperate for. And this is the one piece of the budget that we're getting broad bipartisan support for. And the reason is, we even heard the president give a speech on it a couple weeks ago. We have the highest corporate tax rate in the world. No one in their right mind would do business in the United States if they can locate their business somewhere else. We are incentivizing every day, we keep our current tax code, people to take their jobs somewhere else. It's got to stop. So we're suggesting a 25% rate. That puts us in the middle of the pack internationally, where we have been promised by most of the major international employees that that is an incentive to bring those jobs home. Deal with the repatriation issue, those dollars that are trapped offshore that could come home and be invested in jobs and property, plant, and equipment and stoke our economy, but they're trapped offshore because no one can afford to pay 35% tax on it. And change from a worldwide system, or a territorial system to, no, we are going from worldwide to territorial. Right now we tax everybody's income in every other country, just taxes the income that's earned on their soil, their territory. And so we're moving, again, to sync up with the rest of the organized world. And so, like I said, Ways and Means Committee has been working well with the Senate Finance Committee. Max Baucus is the Democrat chair there. Dave Camp is our chair on the House Ways and Means Committee. And we really think this is the Congress that we're going to get tax reform done. And then the other thing is we're going to have, these last two, we're going to have the grown-up discussion about those autopilot spending programs, because it is honestly the Medicare program that's bankrupting us right now. And so what we have proposed is setting everyone who is 55 and older aside, making no changes for those people. And again, people say, well, that's not fair. Well, it is. You don't change the rules of a game after the buzzer goes off. And that's what it would be like. These people have planned their retirements based on the laws that are on the books today. I think we have made that promise to those folks. But I just turned 50 a few months ago. I've got a few years to react. And, I can figure it out. So we're going to, for those that are under 55, ask them to make a couple changes. One would be an age adjustment. We would gradually raise the retirement age by 2 years. And again, we're living on average 10 years longer today than when those programs were birthed. So to ask me to work a couple extra years, I'm not offended by that. I'm not sure I want to work 8 more, but, or the full 10, but 2 is a good place to start. And then an income adjustment. And so we're suggesting that folks that maybe make $1 million forego their Medicare benefit this year. I think they can afford to do that. Is it fair? No. Life's not fair, folks. So that's the proposal. And then we give folks an option to either stay in Medicare as it exists today or move to the new Medicare. We also make some changes on the Medicaid program, block grant it to states. That's the poster child for a program that is wrought with waste, fraud, and abuse. The federal government's just doing a flat, lousy job administering that program. So we're suggesting maybe if we gave the money to the states, they would know our constituency better and how best to meet the needs. And, so that's just a real quick look at what we propose to fix it. And this is what happens. Again, this is where we are today. The government spending as a percent of GDP. As you can see, we're above the 20% mark where everyone should aim to be. And the red is if we, again, do nothing, maintain the status quo, keep the appropriation levels what they are today, keep the tax code as it is. The green is where we would get if we passed reforms like I just described. And they don't have to be exactly, we're open to negotiation. And then here is the debt. Again, where we've been historically, where we're headed, and where we would get if we pass something like the reforms. And more importantly, a lot of people talk about, well, Lynn, you talk too much about debt to GDP ratios, and I just flat don't even care. What I want to know is how does that affect my life? And so this is what I want you to take away. This is how it would affect your life. We'd see a 1% increase in economic growth, 500,000 more American jobs, family income increasing, and that's just in the first year. So with that, that's just a real quick summary. What we're going to do is I'm just going to draw out of the bucket to give you all a fair chance. We're going to take questions out of the bucket.
I have a question
Okay.
about what you were saying on here.
Yeah.
These are the only things that you're discussing in your ways and means?